Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, my beautiful, beautiful angels. Today, we have a special guest. Her name is Kimberly Sherry. She's an international frequency alchemist, an energy expert, a number one best-selling author, inspirational speaker, and a healing mentor. Kimberly, it's such an honor and pleasure to have you today. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Today is the spring equinox that we're recording this on. So I'm all excited in that energy of spring. So this is going to be awesome.
Spring, a new beginning. I want to ask, when was that pivotal moment in your life that you're like, okay, the life that I was living before and who I was before is no longer working. I need to step into this new version of me.
I'll say the first one because it's happened over and over and over. So I was born and raised into the religious cult of Jehovah's Witnesses. And there was a point when I realized when I was probably close to my 40s, I was about 38 and suicidal by then, and was stuck in a marriage with someone who was also in this religious cult, but he had been cheating on me for 23 of the 25 years that we had been married. But you had to be able to prove it to the cult. And anyway, so by then, I was pretty fed up and very depressed and very lost. So I was very suicidal at the time. And that's when I realized there has to be something better. And that was my first time.
Mm. And that opened you up to finding new modalities and finding other ways to fall in love with you.
Yeah, to break out of the box that I was in. So in this religious cult, you really weren't allowed to even look at information that wasn't part of the group uh, mindset. And so looking at anything outside of that was sort of forbidden. So I started reading books and discovering that my family of origin was dysfunctional, as well as my spiritual family. And so I realized that I had to get out. I had to get out. So I ended up leaving the religious cult, which it's kind of like being on the moon, because when you leave this particular group, all the friends that you were uh, only allowed to have, like you couldn't have friends outside of the group. And I was born and raised in this religion. So it was very, very isolated. And so when you leave, they can never speak to you again. So you're pretty much on the moon. I didn't have connections outside of this group, but it was, one of those situations. Whenever we step into those places where we have to recreate ourselves, we have to step into this new expanded place, it can be scary. We don't know what's going to go on, but it was either life or death at that point. I was either going to kill myself or I was going to make some changes. I'd even gone as far as going into a sporting goods store to buy a gun to, end my life. And reflecting on my two children, who were, I think, 9 and 11 at the time, I realized I couldn't do that to them. And so I got angry instead, which was kind of like a next level up of energy. Instead of all being stuck down in this depression, I got angry. And then this started to move me in a direction that got me out of the religion and out of the marriage. So those were two big, huge pieces. And I think that they seem particularly significant and difficult because I would say those were the first ones. There have been many since then, but those were particularly difficult.
And what was the method that helped you the most to, because this is a scary thing. What you did is not only leave your family and your friends behind, but who you were as a person, anything that you knew, your whole entire life, everything you build up to that point, you're like, okay,
Absolutely.
this is a lie. Now I'm stepping into this new version of me, but I'm already as an adult. And the society is expecting me to already have all of this thing figured out.
Right, right.
So what was that method that helped you find yourself?
I remember reading a book at the time that was very pivotal in changing my mindset. And the book was by Susan Jeffers, and it was called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And so that was the very first thing that started to change me out of this lockdown of being in fear that I was then going to be in the world with Satan and his demons, and everybody on the outside is against you, and it was just a very bleak outlook. But I didn't care anymore at that point. I just wanted to live. And so that was one really important thing that helped, was to change that mindset. But I also started exploring it was a psychic institute at the time, which had been completely forbidden by this group. I remember going to a psychic fair. It was at least an hour away from home. I figured nobody would see me. And I remember getting a reading by someone, and I was so fascinated by what this man was telling me. He never had seen me or heard, he didn't know me. But he was telling me things that really hit home, that made me cry, telling me things about my father. And so this was the beginning of a very exciting exploration into this world of energy. And when I got back home, I looked up the school. I started attending this school. And so I went to this school. And initially, it was sort of a forbidden school. But eventually, once I left, the witnesses, it didn't matter. And this school, I went there every week for 12 years. For 12 years. And I learned to practice how to trust what I knew, what I felt, what I saw. And little by little, you do anything for 12 years, you're going to get pretty good at it. So that was a very big piece in my initial change and getting out of this, this lockdown. And another thing that I did was, because there were no resources at the time, we didn't have the kind of online support that we have today. I started a support group for former Jehovah's Witnesses. And I ran this group every month for 9 years. And so initially I did it with a woman who was also an ex-Jehovah's Witness, and she was a psychologist. And so we ran this group together for a few years, and then she went off to raise her family and create a family. And I carried on and for 9 years. And that was super powerful and important, to be able to tell your story over and over and over. Every time you tell your story like that, and you also are hearing other people telling their stories, it takes the charge off of all of the oppression and the lack mindsets and all of that, the control mechanisms. So that was super helpful. And for the first time, I had knocked on doors trying to save the world for my whole life. That was part of the requirements of Jehovah's Witnesses, is you have to do a lot of this preaching stuff. And so for the first time in my life, I felt like I'd actually helped save someone's life, because there were other people like myself, who were suicidal. And so it was very, very rewarding for a change.
Wow. Can you guide us through for a second on how this process works? Because you built this system over the years that helps somebody to go on this journey. Can you describe a little bit the process of somebody working with you?
Yes. So the process is outlined in my book, Access Your Ultimate Power: The Blueprint to Infinite Intelligence. And it's a combination of several things that I've learned over the years, things that have been downloaded to me since then. So part of the foundation is having gone to this psychic school. So that's a very foundational piece of this system that I've been given. But once I eventually left that group, new pieces started to come in. And so those have been added to this system. Another big part of what has helped me to create this system was, one, I was introduced to Dr. David Hawkins and his work in his book, Power versus Force. So he created a scale of human consciousness. And so, but his scale only went to 1,000. And so Another piece that helped me to expand was working with plant medicine. So I worked with ayahuasca, I worked with a lot of peyote medicine and all in ceremony. But after about 25 ayahuasca journeys over 5 years, I broke through the Hawkins scale. And it started going up and up and up, and it went up to, I think, 150,000 before it broke through to infinity, but it felt really unstable. So I kind of came back down, and then it broke through to infinity at 250,000. And that's where the scale has stayed ever since then. So that was in 2012. So this scale and being able to measure vibrational frequencies is really the foundation of the work I do. I've discovered that when you can know where you are on the map, when the map says you are here, this is your starting point, then you know where to go from there. But if you don't know where you're starting from, you're kind of in the dark. So being able to measure and calibrate, you can calibrate anything, then you know where you're starting. So I measure things in a vibrational altitude report. And this is done without ever speaking to the person, without seeing a picture of them, without them answering any questions. Like, I know absolutely zero about this person, but I'm tapping into the quantum field, measuring frequencies, calibrations, etc. And it can be things like how open is your heart? Are there people courting to you? How much anger do you hold? How much fear are you holding in your energy field? How high is your money frequency? On and on and on. There's about 50 things that I measure. And the most common response is, you nailed it. So I do it this way so that people can really get a better taste of what I do and how accurate it is. Because once you know where you are, then someone could even apply their own healing modalities to this report, because I also tell all the places where the energies are blocked and where they're stuck. So you could use your own tools and this report, clear what you need to clear. And then it also comes with a 30-minute conversation where we can check, how'd you do? Did you clear everything? Do you still need a little help? And then we go from there. That's how the system works.
That's amazing. So you build a system that you give somebody measurable tools. So we're like, okay, your anxiety is at this level, your anger is at this level. And then the person kind of like feels, okay, this is so accurate. Now what can I do? And then you go forward and you clear that. That's amazing.
Right.
It
Yeah,
speaks to the left brain very much so. And I wish I had met you like when I was at the beginning of my journey, because I had so many questions. Like, if something couldn't be logically explained, it wasn't true. And
right.
this method helps you like kind of like bridge that gap between your logical mind to, okay, this makes sense. I trust that, I'm open. Let's do this.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I love it because it really accelerates your growth and expansion so much quicker, because you don't have to guess. Did I get there? Did I clear everything? You just remeasure and then you know. And so instead of thinking, gee, do I have a temperature? I don't know. Let me check the back of my neck. Do I, or you can get a thermometer and go, yeah, it's 902. And so then you know exactly what steps to take. And so it's a lot faster way of creating expansion, elevation, ascension, whatever it is you want to refer to that as.
How do you see this method being applied on a global level to step into this new earth?
Since you can use it for anything, you can measure things that are not even related to a person. I've been doing some bigger missions with some groups where we are addressing some of the ancient cabal structures on the planet, helping to dismantle these. And so part of that, that can be measured. Even like the Statue of Liberty in the United States, I applied my system to the Statue of Liberty, and she wasn't grounded. She was very angry, so all this energy. And so once I cleared it, then that statue is starting to broadcast a new frequency. I've done this with our planet Earth. You can do it with anything. So that's the beauty of it is it can be applied to a lot of things over and above just an individual person. Yeah.
A question that is coming from the collective right now is, do you teach how to measure things?
Yes, yes. Part of it happens in the process of working with me. And I have taught a mentor class. It was been several years ago. I've been contemplating whether or not it's time to do it again. And I'm getting some nudgings that it is time to do it again. But when people work with me, I am clearing so many levels uh, that oftentimes their own intuition and also when I work with someone, I'm not just coming in and cleaning house for them. I'm walking them through a very specific system, the system that's outlined in the book, so that it's duplicatable. They can do it themselves. I don't like being able to create people that are dependent on me and that can't do what I'm doing unless I'm doing it. I like teaching people how to do it for themselves. That's far more empowering. So the answer is yes, and some of it is just through osmosis, and then at some point I will do my mentoring program again.
One question that I want to ask is, you have this like beautiful, peaceful elegance about
Mhm.
yourself. Is this something that came up as doing a lot of energy work on yourself, or is that always your demeanor?
um, I would say it has definitely grown over time. I would say that people have always thought that I was attractive and beautiful, but there was a time when I didn't believe it. Someone would give you a compliment. It's like, oh no, it's a bad hair day, or whatever. But eventually you get to the point where you can say thank you. It's interesting that you're touching on this because I am, as we speak, I am in the process of sort of recreating myself, rebranding myself, stepping into a more specific direction. I'm 67, and so I believe that what is going on here is it's not an external thing, it's really more of an internal radiance, and so that's really what I want to teach people about and how to raise those frequencies. So when you're talking about being able to look younger, one of the things that I've recently discovered is being able to measure every body organ and body system in the body. So like your endocrine system, your lymphatic system, your nervous system, all of those can be calibrated so that they're operating at 100%. And then you can measure the millivolts, which is the level of light frequency in any one of those. So when you're operating your whole body from that level, you're going to develop and radiate a different frequency. I would say it's more of an inner beauty.
Okay, question. As you said that you're calibrating. So let's say hypothetically, someone learned this method and they're like, okay, I'll recalibrate my stomach and my lungs and my liver. How
Yeah.
long do they stay calibrated? Or how often do you have to do this for yourself?
It depends on how big of a problem you're having in any one of those organs. To give you an example, I first learned about measuring different body organs, although I've applied it in a much bigger way more recently. But many years ago, about 10 years ago, I had a bladder infection and I had to keep going to the doctors. I ended up having a kidney surgery, and but the infections kept coming back. So it was really more of an energetic issue. Having been sexually abused as a very young child, the kidneys in Chinese medicine is your sex organs. So this system, this whole urinary tract system, was related to this old sexual abuse. So when I took the antibiotics and I calibrated. So I watched the numbers. So if your bladder is functioning at 100%, when the antibiotics were finished, the bladder was at 100%. So I just kept track and measured and checked the frequency and the percentage, and so watched the numbers start to come down again. Well, the numbers were coming down before I even felt symptoms. So when I just started to feel the symptoms, I did something different, which was I just focused on the bladder. So this is a little different than what I do now, but it's something that somebody could do. And I just started measuring the percent. So say if it was like at 50%, I would count 51, 52, 53. And at some point, the numbers would feel like it stops, like it just has to pause for a minute. And so you would just wait. And then the numbers, okay, then you could start counting again. And then it would go. So I did that until it got up to 100. And so every few hours I would recheck again, and it was starting to come down again. So I kept it back up. So after I did that for a few days, gradually it was staying up longer and longer and longer until I never needed to have antibiotics again. And this was a reoccurring issue. So in the beginning, you might need to check it, more often. But once you know how to check these things, then you can, once it's at 100%, and then you're not going to have symptoms. You're providing the energetic support. So initially, you bring it up to 100%. Well, it's like my bladder didn't heal, but you're providing the energetic support so that it can. And so over the days, as you keep it at this high frequency, it will heal itself.
Wow, that is very profound. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking forward to playing with this a little bit. I'm like, we'll just try
Yeah.
some organs and see what happens. One
Yeah.
question that came to me actually earlier on, as you said that you went through this ayahuasca journeys and you tipped the scale of David Hawkins and you went to 250,000. Would you please describe that to our audience, what that feels like and what did that do for you specifically?
Well, I think that because I had already been participating with the plant medicine, so that already elevated me. That's what elevated me. And so the plant medicine, I was coming from a more elevated state, a much higher frequency, a much higher vibration. And there was just so many experiences in the Amazon that were of this high frequency. Um, but I'll just share one real quick one.
Yes,
So
please.
when we came out of the jungle, there's a group of about 8 of us, and we were told that because of weather, our flights had been canceled, and so it was like, "Oh, no, what are we gonna do?" My interpreter, we just kept, um, working with the people at the desk, and we just kept persisting and persisting. "Are you sure? Is there something else? Da, da, da." So eventually, because we would have had to, first of all, stay another night, find a hotel, get new flights, et cetera, et cetera. Lots of details for all 8 of us. Well, we just kept persisting. And so all of us are holding this high frequency, right? And so what ended up happening was actually quite magical because they ended up putting us all on the next flight out, and this airport was packed with people in the same position of us waiting for a flight. We went to the front of the line. We were all put in first class, and we got to our destination. We were still in Peru, but they put us up in a 5-star hotel. They gave us food vouchers for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We connected with a friend in the group who came to the hotel and did this beautiful sound bath. And it was just absolutely magical. And so, 24 hours before this, we were hot and sweaty in the jungle with mosquitoes and no toilets and no running water. There was toilets, but there's no flushing toilets. And so now we all had king size beds and bidets, and they greeting us with these fruit smoothies, and it just felt like we were kings and queens. So this elevated frequency is it's an inner radiance that you feel, and a lot of joy and ease and peace of mind. I think that's really the best way to describe it.
Well, as you're actually telling the story, I'm feeling this like in my chest. I feel like this infinity space. Usually, when we go into deep meditation, you get into that hypnagogic state. That's what I was feeling in my chest as you were just telling the story. And I'm
Yeah,
sure the audience is feeling that as well as you took us to that moment. And it goes to show when we're operating a high vibration, how much magic we can create around. The impossible becomes possible
yeah.
right in front of our eyes.
It becomes your natural default. It is for me. There's always magic.
That's amazing. And I know one of your superpowers is to help clear and align people to that financial abundance in their life. Would it be okay to guide our VIP members through a journey to maybe open up those channels to attract more abundance? Does that feel okay to you?
I would love to, because the truth of the matter is that no matter what you do on the outside, you might have the greatest personality, the most charming, persuasive sales pitch. You might have an absolutely amazing website. If you have a low money frequency, that is all you're going to continue to attract. And so this walkthrough of this specific process on how to raise your frequency and then become aligned to it can completely change that story so that you start attracting a whole new frequency.
Mm, sounds
Happy.
amazing. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
Okay, great.
Wow, that was so unique. I don't think I've ever experienced anything like it. The way I can describe it, it's like I feel like you're an engineer just connecting different energetic cables. So like, okay, you're gonna take the heart and connect it to this, and then you were, and I just like would see all these weaves of energy cables connected and realigned, and I'm like, wow, this is my body felt different. And like I felt like I had a different base.
Mm, yeah.
I'm like, okay, let me sit into it. This is a different alignment. I'm like, okay, I can do this.
Well, and
I've
you know,
never experienced anything like it.
oh, great. Well, I think the really cool thing is that everything is becoming faster and more efficient. So that was what we did there was the whole process of running your energy and then running the money energy through your now elevated frequency with this high vibration. So now you not only have a high money vibration, but we made sure that you're aligned with this high money vibration. That's where everything starts to change. So people might notice something like right away, something might happen in the next 3 days. The idea is to keep it at this high frequency so that that's the frequency you're sending. That's what you're going to attract.
Mm.
It's the
And
law of attraction, right?
love attraction, yes. So you would advise someone to go through this journey every single day to keep the vibration high and simply imagine or see the abundance coming into their lives?
Absolutely. Well, they'll start seeing it because of staying in this high frequency. And,
Mm.
it can be helpful if you have, different ideas or things that you wanna plant in your creative rings, the things that you desire. Maybe you wanna travel more, maybe there's people you wanna help with more abundance. We don't really want the paper and ink when people say they want more money, that's not really what they're interested in. They're interested in what money can do. So that's the things that you should imagine is how you feel when you're helping someone else because you have more money, or how it feels when you're in a new country and exploring new cultures and creating new memories, or whatever it is. That's what you want to put in your rings.
Can you tell us about one of the most magical money stories, whether it's yours or one of your clients?
One of my first clients that I started working with long as an international client, I met her on the other side of the US at we were had the same mentor at the time. She lived in Switzerland. we met there, and then we both went back home, but then she wanted to work with me over the phone. So this was remote energy work. And she originally started with, she only had 3 clients. Her kids were always sick. They rented a house. Her husband, I believe, was like a fireman or a police officer or something like that. And but always struggling. And so over time, we worked at the magic, and she was, I think, one of the smartest clients I ever had, because she had me calibrate everything: the name of her website, the colors on her website, how many people should be in a program, how long it should be, when and how long, like when the date we should start. I mean, we calibrated everything. And she only did the thing that was in the highest calibration. Well, it wasn't long, I think after the first month, I think she had a $6,000 a month. And then a couple months later, she had 10,000. It just kept going up and up and up. She was in the $3 million era or phase. Her husband quit his job and then started helping her in her home, I mean, in her business. They bought the home that they were renting. So on and on and on. That was very magical.
Wow, that's amazing. I love hearing those stories.
Yeah.
One question for you is, where do you see yourself? Where you going? What is next for you in your journey?
Yes. So I can't remember if we talked about this before the call or if I've already mentioned this. If I have already mentioned it, well, it's a duplication. But I'm in the process of revamping my book, and it needs to be revised. A new book is going to be coming from that as well. And I'm really going to start simplifying things. And I'm going to be focusing on a more specific target, which is being the lighthouse for light workers. So the healer's healer, and also focusing on natural anti-aging. So that's going to be my new niche. Here we are in spring, creating myself and excited about stepping into some new things.
The new year and the new Kim. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
Love that. I love the sound of that, and I'm looking forward to. And you actually already accomplished the second one, because I want to look as beautiful as you are at your age. Like, you're just exuding this elegance, this youth, this vibrance. It's magical. I can feel it. I can
Thank you.
sense it. I'm like, whatever you're drinking, eating, or doing, I want to learn that.
Okay, good. Well, the book, yeah, the book will be coming out.
If that means I need to
Inspire me.
recalibrate all of my organs, then I'll do that. Oh,
Absolutely.
beautiful. So where does our audience can find your book?
It's on Amazon. It's on Amazon. Access Your Ultimate Power, the Blueprint to Infinite Intelligence. It's available as a Kindle version or as a paperback. And I'm going to work as fast as I can to get a revised edition out. And then I'd actually like to start doing some traveling in the US, maybe doing little presentations with book signings. And so that's all part of my new creation. So stay tuned.
Stay
And
tuned, because a lot of magical things are coming out.
yes, and I'm gonna give you, I think I may have already given you the link to my link tree that has all the updated of everything about me. So it's got my YouTube channel in there. It has a link to the book, so that's an easy way to get to the book. It'll have my website, or it does have my website, and so all the simple ways of connecting with me and what I do,
That
including
sounds
that the vibrational altitude report is also available there.
beautiful, and I'll have the link underneath for our audience. In conclusion, is there, and it's 1155, is there anything that you're guided to share with our audience that is listening right now?
Well, I am so excited that whoever is listening to this, it is no accident. You're meant to hear my message. And I hope that you stay connected, because we are on the verge of massive recreations and finding more efficient ways to tap into our infinite intelligence, our infinite knowing, and being able to bring all of these new ways forward. So that, these newer, younger people like yourself who are bringing new ideas and new enthusiasm to the planet. It's really the most exciting time to see all the changes that are happening with art and artificial intelligence doesn't have to be something we are fearing, thinking that the robots are taking over. But I'm seeing new ways that artificial intelligence is going to be working in our favor. And so always keep asking my favorite question: how does it get any better than this? And then stay in that blissful question of, I wonder.
Wow, that is literally my favorite question, and I ask it all the time. So I'm going to reiterate that one more time. In this
Yes.
moment, right now, as you're feeling amazing, as you feel this vibration, ask my angels, does it get any better than this? And be aware that a surprise, even a bigger surprise, it's coming along because they're so playful and they're just waiting to show you more magic so you can continue sharing and shining your light.
Yes, and I like to clarify the kind of surprises because we don't want those surprises that blindside us. So I always like to clarify it with pleasant surprises. Look
Mm,
forward to this.
pleasant surprises. Okay, that's very important. Beautiful.
Yes,
Thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure and such an honor
yeah, mine too. Thank you.
to experience your light, your elegance, and your wisdom. Thank you so much. And for those of you who connect with Cam, who are like, oh my God, you have the answers to what I've been looking for, please find the link below, reach out, connect, and continue this journey.
Yep.
Until the next time.
Namaste.